Welcome to the F.E.A.R Chronicles, false evidence appearing real, where we are covering real stories for navigating burnout, bold moves, and becoming your best self. I'm your host, Natasha Agha, private practice strategist, mother of two, and recovering perfectionist. This is the space where we get honest about the pivots, the pressure, and the purpose behind it all. If you're navigating life transitions, career shifts, motherhood, or learning to trust yourself again, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So, if you've been following the F.E.A.R Chronicles, that again is false evidence appearing real. I've been sharing my journey. I've been touching on certain points of it that I feel could resonate with a lot of people. So, it's been pretty real because it's my life, and raw, and the journey from burnout to breakthrough. So just to recap a little bit, we left off last time with the moment where it was several moments, but where I had rebuilt the foundation of my business and everything from the ground up. I had figured out the systems, implemented strategies, and both business and personal, but we're going to talk primarily with my business today. Um, so everything was in place, and I had a new marketing campaign set up, and I was ready to scale. Everything was running smoothly. I was elated. And then the universe had different plans. So I'm going to share a little bit about this today. Um, so when At this point in time, we're going to talk about my mobile practice. I had both a private practice where I was seeing clients outside of the mobile, but we're going to talk about the mobile piece. So that again was mobile video swallow studies. So I had a big truck and had the equipment inside and like a hydraulic wheelchair lift, and would bring clients in there, perform the study, and then they would exit. So we would go to wherever they were at, whether that was, at their home or in assisted living, group home, or like a skilled nursing facility. So of the contracts that we had, or I did have some contractors. We had one primary customer that I would say was like about two-thirds of our business. And at, it was quite sudden, but they stopped paying. I followed up. I texted multiple people there. I emailed, I called over and over and over again. And as time went on, I still never really received a response and no payment and really no clarity. And I started spinning. And uh, soon, after more time had gone on, I couldn't cover payroll. And then I had big policies for the company that I was no longer able to renew because the money never came. Um, and I was staring down a decision that I never imagined that I would have to make, especially for where I was with my business. And I ultimately made the decision that I had to close my practice. Um, and it was very difficult because I'd come so far. I had all the systems, the SOPs, the processes I had built from the ground up, and it just felt like everything was crumbling. And then in that moment, it got a little bit worse. So if you remember towards the beginning of the F.E.A.R Chronicles, I had mentioned that when I made the decision to get the truck, do the things, I had taken out a loan, right? It's pretty substantial because you kind of have to have that upfront cost in order to acquire what I needed at the time, and plus the working capital. Um, so those payments didn't stop when the business did, right? So eventually I had to make another tough decision, because at this point I had two small children. I had this substantial loan, and some business credit cards because the working capital had run out. And I also wasn't receiving payment from my primary customer. So I had to file for bankruptcy, and that again was another hard decision. Not only did I have to close my practice, I also had to file for bankruptcy. And there were a lot of emotions and things that came up with that too, because I remember thinking, how did I get here? I'm smart, I'm responsible, I'm good with money. Like, what happened? And honestly, like bankruptcy isn't just financial. It impacts every aspect of your life. And with that, I also, there was a stipulation there where I needed to demonstrate that I had consistent income on paper. And well, if you recall, when I quit my full-time job, I was piecemealing um, part-time on-call work, and that's how I was kind of making ends meet at that point in time outside of the business, and that wasn't going to cut it. So I ended up having to make another big decision, which was to return to the one role that I thought I had left behind. And I was strapped for time. I knew I needed money and consistent pay, and it was the one thing that I knew. And also didn't require me to have to shop around for a job because there was no interview required because I've done the job for years. So I went back to being a rehab director. And let me tell you, I knew instantly that that was not what I wanted to do once I was there. Everything that I didn't miss about the role came just flooding back to me from the long hours to the pressure to the politics to the disconnection from what I loved about the work that I was doing. Long story short, I stayed about 6 months and then I quit. I reached my ceiling on that and I couldn't do it anymore. So 6 months was as far as I had gotten. And, I was in this space where I was emotionally drained, financially stretched, and I was really not sure what was going to come next. And somewhere in that space, it it got quiet and the questions came in, like the question I like to ask a lot is, what do you want to do when you grow up? So I asked myself that. What do I want to do when I grow up? What's my big girl job going to be? At one point in my life, my big girl job was being a rehab director. And then maybe I would move up and up and up and do all these things. And that was before kids and before I realized that that was just not what I wanted to do. Um, and there was one day in particular. So I'm in this space where I'm just reflecting and like, okay, whatever I do next, I don't want it to be a Band-Aid fix. I want it to be, this is like what I want to do. And I was having a conversation with someone and he looked me straight in the eye and he said, there's no one else that has your experience. You could help so many people. And in that moment, it clicked. Everything just clicked. I just like had this like light bulb aha moment, right? And it was the burnout, the systems I had built, the failure, the recovery, the lessons. They weren't just for me. So you think about like every detour, every delay, every I don't know how I'm going to get through this moment to was leading me to this moment here. The version of my purpose. So that's where this was all started and how it got created. Obviously, there's this whole long story before, but it leads to this moment where I realized that helping other practice owners navigate their burnout, rediscovering their whys, building smarter, simpler systems that give them their life back. I had done all these things and it wasn't for me because I didn't have it anymore, but I had all the resources and all the things and done all the work, and I didn't choose this path that led me here, but it was exactly the path that I needed to walk. And so if you're in a season of stuck, of questioning, of burnout, I want you to really hear this. The breakdown is it's not the end. It's the opening, it's the beginning. There is something powerful on the other side. And if you're willing to trust the process and to take one step at a time, that's what you do, just one foot in front of the other. So I want you to, tell me in the comments, you can DM me, tell me, what's one thing that you've learned the hard way in your business or in life? You know, I want us to share, reflect, and, remind each other that we're not alone. And if you want, you know, help with navigating your own shift, I've got some tools to support you. So you can DM me, breakthrough. You can just shoot me a message again in the comments, and I'll send you a link to get started. So just know that you've got this, and there's still more to this story. So I'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining me on the F.E.A.R Chronicles. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to like, comment, or share with someone who needs it. Want more support? Check out the links below for free resources, workshops, and how to work with me. Remember, bold moves start with small shifts. You've got this, and I've got you.